grand. TrueCar.com. I used TrueCar yesterday. Saved $4,000 in the car.
What are you, an NBA player, just buying cars online?
I'm not buying cars. My wife went to a car dealership yesterday, and she used TrueCar. I used my sponsors. $4 grand.
Yeah. I always tell my wife, I got a connection for that. I got somebody. I know a guy.
Do you know guys in the car business?
I know guys in the car business.
All right. So last night, here's what's interesting. So last night, your Celtics, very embarrassing performance, got dogged by the Clippers. Let me hear your excuses.
City of Angels. Got the best of them. And the Clippers are a hard-playing team. You got to admit they're probably at least top 5. You have to enjoy watching those guys play. Montrezl Harrell, Pat Beverly, Lou Williams. You don't like that team, and I get it. The Celtics, though, I think those 3 games that they won, and I said this, I wasn't really impressed with the Lakers scrimmage, the Warriors disinterested, and the Sacramento King win.
You still think the Celtics have issues?
No, they looked great. They were connected. They were high-fiving. They were good. They were getting drilled, but they were good. They didn't have the problems that they've had in the past, even though they were getting drilled. So
the chemistry issues you think with Boston have subsided. Their issues now are mostly, can they win games against good teams?
I think, Colin, 6 days in L.A., you're not going to win that game. Against a hard-playing Clipper team, you're not going to win that game.
Well, just guys go out and...
Yeah, I mean, it's L.A.
All right, fair enough.
Too much. It's too much. You can't be in L.A. for 6 days and expect to win that game unless you had crazy, mentally focused guys. And, I think it's the regular season. These guys are hanging out here, hanging out there. They lost.
All right, so I want to address a couple of things. Magic Johnson, according to a report today, did not listen to his coaching staff. They wanted to keep Brook Lopez, who's having a best year shooting, and they let him go. He wanted to keep Julius Randle. Luke did in the staff. He's averaging 21 with the Pelicans. What do you make of Magic running the franchise? I had an executive in the league tell me in the last 24 hours, he said, listen, they don't have a grinder in the building. They've got famous people. Sure. They got Jeannie Buss, and the guy that looks like Rob Lowe, Rob Pelinka, and they got Magic and LeBron. But my source in the league said they don't have a grinder in the building. They've got smart, famous people, and they don't think analytically it's a top 5 to 10 team in the league, whereas the Celtics have analytic people. They've got grinders in the building. I mean, what do you make of Magic running the team? Is it quite possible that he was great for landing LeBron, like Elway landing Peyton Manning, but he's not built for this thing?
Well, I don't want to say that because he has great leadership qualities and skills, but maybe they do need to hire a grinder. Maybe that's... And I'm sure they have some people underneath Magic and Rob Pelinka that we're not mentioning that are there scouting. But all the moves they made, that was to placate Paul George, which they swung and missed on. So now, what are they going to do this offseason? They didn't ruin their cap space. They didn't go out there and sign a bunch of guys to long-term deals. So they have another at-bat at the plate. Now, why don't we have this conversation if they strike out again? If Jimmy Butler doesn't sign, if they don't get Cousins, if they don't make a move. But if they get an Anthony Davis, they have LeBron, they go sign Jimmy Butler, then this conversation doesn't really exist because he did his job. The Lakers got nobody for so long. I mean, Luol Deng, Mozgov, but he landed LeBron. That's a step in the right.
Russell,
sure.
2 to 3 years ago, was, he's always been kind of an...
So initially, I was thinking, man, isn't it great? If you read stories about Michael Jordan when he hits the deck in Cleveland and the whole Cleveland, their old arena, they cheered. Then he got up and dropped 69. I've seen countless examples of guys being motivated by the crowd. What is the deal? And I want to bring up him and the other guy in the NBA. If I had to rank them 1-2, they would be Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
So what is it about Oklahoma City where these guys, maybe they're so protected in this environment, maybe because it's small town college feel. Maybe they don't like it bothers them more when they go on the road, because both those guys seem to be really sensitive to other people's fans. And they, Westbrook wanted to get this guy kicked out and, is setting the kid a lesson. And now it's this guy up in the stands. Like, I don't know what was said, but why is he so worried about it? In the past, this has been going on for years. And now is Westbrook like standing up saying this stuff has to stop? Like, come on, we're human beings. We can't have people talking to us like that. I mean, I think that's part of the deal. Now, what Westbrook said and what the guy said, that's completely different. So I don't know which one was said, and I can see why he was upset. But it is still kind of a motivating factor.
Like, no, Kobe Bryant used heckling.
Sure.
Like, some comics deal with it, some players do. Kobe was great with hecklers. Reggie Miller was great with hecklers.
Yeah, great story.
Westbrook's not as great with hecklers. I mean, everybody's different. It's just some people deal with this stuff well. My argument about the NBA is, and I see sports do this all the time, all these leagues, hockey included, they all make a fortune on TV money now. Like, I never understood baseball. Baseball should give kids tickets for free. If you have open seats, because you're making so much money, don't charge a kid $4. Just get him in your stadium, right? The NBA makes so much money. These teams now have sold all these seats next to benches. They've taken broadcasters and jammed them upstairs to sell an extra 9 seats. And when I go to games, my takeaway is the fans are too close and on top of players.
Colin, that's what makes the NBA unbelievable, because you could see their face. That's the great part about the NBA. I mean, you're saying it's because of TV, but man, those guys, they like to be there. $3,000 a ticket. They make a couple, probably by the opening of those seats, maybe $1 million a year off of doing that. So yeah, it's like you want the fans to be there on top of you. You want it to, I think that's what makes a great environment. You go to Summer League, you go to Pro-Ams, there's people on top of guys. People are talking trash. That's how most people grew up playing basketball. I don't understand why Westbrook is so offended by this. He had to have dealt with this his whole entire life.
Well, basketball is a trash-talking sport.
Sure.
It is. But that doesn't mean every person is built for it. Vernon Maxwell struggled with it. Remember Vernon Maxwell?
Yeah.
He struggled with it. Now, have you ever when you're at games, and you were, by the way, on that bench in Boston, did you ever hear Celtic fans say stuff that you were like, oh, wow, over the line?
I don't think anything's over the line. That's just me personally. I don't. I mean, I just think it's like an environment in which, you got to be locked in and focused. If that is causing you to lose focus, and I'm not saying Westbrook shouldn't be in the NBA. Obviously, he's good enough to do it, but I can't imagine going nuts over a guy in the stands. I just can't imagine it bothering. I mean, the stuff that was said to anybody.
What if it's racial, though?
I mean, I'm a white guy, so I don't know if that's going to bother me. But that's somebody saying something to me. I'm not going to be like, if someone said, "You're white, you're slow, you can't jump." All right, so, I get it.
Do stars get more of it? Did Kevin Garnett get more when you were a Celtic?
I mean, the stuff that he had to hear, unbelievable.
Yeah, no, because I've been at a Clipper game, and I heard what they said to Blake and Chris Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Holy God.
Yeah, I get it. It's over the line. But then I would just say they have many security people, like, between Westbrook and the guy. You can be like, tell this guy to get out of here. The guy will be gone. So, you have to stand up and do all this and go through all this and say the stuff that you said when you have 5 security guys right there. Just like send them up there.
What about this, though? Yeah, I mean, I do think, my son came to me recently and he was complaining about somebody at school. And I said, well, I can't control them. And I'm not sure I can control you, but I'm going to give you tools to accept it or deal with it. Westbrook's the kind of guy, I think, that he is so intense. Like, that's just his DNA, right?
Sure.
He's when he comes into an arena, he kind of flips it on. I mean, by the way, he's intense after games with the media.
Sure.
He's an intense guy.
So was Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, he dealt with it.
Jordan punched teammates. I mean, Jordan was really intense. It is. Here's the thing, though. It's what I find interesting with Westbrook is that even his game, he was an 83% free throw shooter. He's now a 63%, right?
Yeah.
So there's something emotionally. Is it because KD left him and has succeeded? Harden left him. Paul George came, took shots. There's got to be something psychological. He was not this guy 2 years ago.
You know
he
what?
was not having these weekly, confrontations.
I think 20 years ago, all the problems they blame on rap music. Nowadays, all the problems they blame on social media. So let's just stick with the social media's fault. I mean, that's the excuse for everything. Why don't we just say, it's probably social media?
I guess we can do that. I tell you, I do find it. I think you have to address it though. If you're
But
Adams,
what can you do? How can you fix this?
If I'm commissioner, I call a head of state meeting with owners of teams and say, I want more space. I want us to make an effort where possible to give players more space on benches, in and out of arenas. I see too many fans on people. Listen, man.
That guy was 5 rows up. They're not getting rid of 5 rows, Colin.
No, I know. Again, some of this is, regardless of what fans say, the minute you show fans weakness,
Sure.
my concern is it's getting worse. Fans now see this video on this show and other shows and go, oh, I can heckle him. And there are a percentage of fans that go wanting to heckle.
Sure, but the guy from Dallas lost his season tickets. The guy from Denver was banned forever. So guys are losing their privileges along the way. That is happening. So if you're Westbrook, why don't you just point to your security guard and be like, take care of this. This is beneath me, which I would say that for most good NBA players, most stuff that they deal with is beneath them. This is beneath me. I should not be having to deal with this. Take care of this. And there are people there that make good money that are in place for this thing. Why not go to the person and have them do their job?
All right, Brian Scalabrine. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
All right, so sticking with that, Russell Westbrook did get into an altercation with a Utah Jazz fan last night. He was recorded shouting at the fan, and after the game, he called the comments disrespectful and racial. And the Jazz put out a statement. They said, we're continuing to investigate the unfortunate exchange at tonight's game between Russell Westbrook and fans. Multiple warning cards were issued by arena security. Players and fans have a shared responsibility to create a safe and respectful environment. If it's determined that any fans violated the NBA Code of Conduct, appropriate action will be taken. Westbrook's teammate, Patrick Patterson, tweeted after the game that fans can say believe about a man's family, wife, and kids. Tell a player, get down on your knees like you used to. As men, what do you expect us to do? Shut up and dribble. No one is held accountable for their actions except for us. Fans are protected in every way possible, but not us. And then someone tweeted him and asked him, he was sitting next to Westbrook, if that's what the fan actually said. He said yes and more. Now, there have been several players who have discussed situations they've had with fans in Utah being racial. There are multiple players over the years that have said that. So it's not unheard of that this would be a racial situation. Now, as Scalabrine just said, there's 2 different complete versions of the story. They interviewed the fan afterwards, and he said he told him to put ice on his knees. I'm sorry, I don't believe that Russell Westbrook would escalate to the level that he was over being told to have ice on his knees, especially when he already had ice on his knees. So it's quite the disparity in what was said. I personally feel like everyone's going to believe who they want to believe. Some people are going to believe the fan. Some people are going to believe Russell Westbrook. Some people are going to believe whatever the league ends up saying. Before they interviewed the fan or saw any of the things on social media about the fan, felt the way that I've always felt about these altercations, that fans feel like if they buy a ticket, they are entitled to some sort of ability to yell whatever they want. Some feel like they can touch players. Obviously, they've had incidents of people throwing things at players. And they believe that there's this invisible wall.
Yesterday, did you see that soccer fan, was it yesterday? That literally punched a player.
Yeah, I mean, it's
crazy.
It's ludicrous. I mean, and then who loses in that situation? If the players all jump on the fan, these are professional athletes, they're stronger than that guy, and they beat him up, then who loses there? The players do. That guy may get arrested or whatever and banned, but it's not okay. And it's not just because this has just been happening for years that it should still be accepted. This idea that you have some sort of ownership because you buy a ticket is insane to me. It's never made any sense to me. You do not. You are entitled to watch the entertainment that you've paid for. That's literally what that ticket means. You can go to the game or the stadium, the arena, sit there and watch the game. The only obligation that player has to you is to be on the field and perform if he's healthy. That's it. There's nothing else that's owed to you. You're not owed any attention. You're not allowed to just yell obscenities or racial slurs or microaggressions.
That's obvious to you, but there are. I still contend alcohol lubricates, courage. People go to games mostly with good intentions, but there's a big chunk of fans, more than you'd think, that go to put a couple beers in them, they turn into turds.
I just think it's there's a culture that has to change. Like, there has to be rules put in place. Like, you asked what the solution is. A player should be able to say, this is what's happening. The security goes and investigates it and kick them out. You're not entitled to just stay there. Like you said, if you go to a Broadway play, if your phone goes off on accident, they can kick you out. There's just rules. You wouldn't act like this on the street. So Nick Foles is going to the Jaguars. They're going to pay him $88 million for a 4-year deal with $50 million guaranteed. And that means that Blake Bortles is on his way out. They have not released him yet, but it's being reported that they will. His average salary will be $22 million, which means he'll be making more than Russell Wilson, Big Ben, Rivers, Cam Newton, Tom Brady. I don't care about how much he's making. You get paid what you get paid when you're available to get paid. That's kind of how it works. And Tom Brady takes less money anyway. But I do like this move. I like that Nick Foles is going to be able to have his own team and prove himself, since we all, well, not me, but I've fully bought in on the Nick Foles phenomenon.
I haven't, but it is a good roster. So, and by the way, that division he's in now, you got Andrew Luck and Deshaun Watson. So you've got really good quarterbacks. So you have to upgrade at quarterback. You can't be in that division facing Andrew Luck and Deshaun Watson 4 times a year for the next decade and have a BB gun.
And have an unreliable quarterback.
Yeah.
Weirdly, though, Nick Foles is such a low-key guy, it makes the Jags interesting to me because I'm kind of rooting for him. Finally, it's time to see who's going places. Sponsored by Toyota. Let's go places. And Deshaun Jackson is going places. The Buccaneers traded him to the Eagles yesterday in exchange for a 7th-round pick, and they reworked his contract for 3 years and $27 million.
He's played a long time in this league. I can remember watching him at Cal. It felt like 2 decades ago. He has been in this league a long time.
He had 41 catches for 774 yards and 4 touchdowns in 12 games he played last year.
And it's funny. He's a smaller athlete, and he's still, he's kind of like Odell Beckham, pre-Odell Beckham. Like, he's bizarrely fast, great hands, and
very skilled player. Yeah,
and if you put him with he's the kind of guy that you put him with. He's a small perimeter player, but he has just endured in this league. He's been he's taken a lot of hits. He's been around a long time. I think he's going to be really productive for Philadelphia.
I just really like all the moves that Philadelphia have made this offseason, too.
Haven't spent a fortune. Yeah, Malik Jackson's a great pickup.
And they signed Jason Peters as well. So they've made some moves this offseason. They're going to be, which they have to. They have to be aggressive in that division, so.
Good for them. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Coming up, the dust of free agency is starting to settle. We have some very interesting relationships, like John Gruden and Antonio Brown, that are forming here. And we'll give you a list of what we think are the 10 to really watch next year. That's coming up. According to the Associated Press, small businesses have an optimistic outlook this year, 2019. And now, with March being National Small Business Month at LegalZoom, perfect time to stop putting off your business needs. Think you need to start a business? Time to place a bet on you. Okay. They're celebrating this month. LegalZoom is celebrating entrepreneurs. 15% off their fee for incorporating, their fee for forming an LLC, nonprofit, and more. So tons of education and online tools to help you find the business that fits for you in this March's National Small Business Month. They're not a law firm, just a network of independent attorneys that review contracts and help with employment laws and lease agreements and more. Place a bet on yourself. Use the code Colin. Your life is eventually going to meet legal. Make it happen. LegalZoom.com. Code Colin, LegalZoom.com, code Colin. 15% off corporations, LLCs, more.